Okay, so let's take a look at this character that you have submitted. First of all, the one thing that I would recommend is that you make your characters a little bit bigger, because when you import them into Crazy Talk, the scaling is going to be adjusted, and this particular character is actually pretty small, and it's no big deal because it is a vector-based character, so you can always enlarge it. But if you want to ensure better compatibility with some of the other props that are already in the program, you might want to make them a little bit bigger so they can be like compatible or more compatible right off the bat. So I'm going to zoom in on your character. I can see that pretty much everything's been done correctly. I mean, let's see. I noticed that the little registration points are on the upper corner here. You might want to put those in the middle, or make sure they end up in the place where the actual point, where the point's going to rotate, because you have this adjustment thing here, and this is fine. But ideally, you want that pivot point to also be there. Your little rotation points right there, that's great. But the actual registration marker is on that corner, which means it's set to that section there. So these are just little workflow tricks. Let's see, window, properties. Gonna inspect some of these things. Click on this. Okay, this is the hip. It's been configured properly. The lower thigh, left shank. It's got the associated pivot points, and those are fine. Some of those are different sizes. It doesn't really change anything. No big deal. Left arm pivot 0, and there's your left arm. That is perfectly fine. So now your thing is that your eyes and your facial features and your hands disappear. So let's take a look at that. Let's zoom in on it really quick. So we click on this eyebrow, and it's set to normal. Okay, so first of all, that's wrong. This needs to be set to an eyebrow, not to normal. That is also wrong. Right eyebrow pivot 0. Okay, so this eyebrow needs to be set to right eyebrow pivot, and this one should be like maybe left eyebrow pivot. So that's wrong. We're just gonna delete that real quick. Let's see, normal 0, 1, that's wrong. So you kind of the way that this has been in normal 0, 1. So basically, this eye, you're telling it is the same as this one, which is not the case. This should be the left eye, and this should be the right eye. Let's take a look at your pivot. Right eye 0, left eye 0. Those are fine, but I'm gonna go ahead and delete them anyways. This is your back hair 0 pivot. Let's click on the back hair 0. Okay, that's fine. Front hair 0. Front hair 0. Okay. Let's take a look at the mouth. Normal. Nope. This needs to be configured so it can read as mouth, not as normal. So this is wrong. That's another reason why it's missing. So let's delete that. And the mouth 0 pivot, that's fine, but you don't have the associated mouth. So basically, you're configuring it wrong, and because it's not properly configured, Crazy Talk doesn't know what the heck it's looking at. So that's the first step. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this pivot point and remove this configuration. Here, face 0 pivot, and that's your face 0. That's fine. Neck 0 and neck 0 pivot. All right, so let's see if we can fix some of these things. It's gonna go to extensions. Puppet Producer is already running. It's on a different monitor. Okay, so here's my eyebrow. We're looking at the 0 point, and I'm just gonna click on the associated eyebrow. Wow, that is huge. Okay, so I guess that's why you have different sizes. I guess this explains why you have different size pivot points. Your character is way too small, but that's fine. We can still work with it. But notice that now that I have reconfigured it, the pivot point is set to right brow 0, and this one is left brow 0. Now look at the actual eyebrow. okay? Right brow 0 and left brow 0. So that should not be configured as normal. It should be configured as an actual eyebrow. So next let's take a look at the eye. We're going to configure this as an eye by just clicking on it. And see, because your registration marker is way out there, that's where the pivot point is placed. Okay, let's try to adjust that pivot point so it's in the center. And let's do it again here. This is going to cause you a lot more work than you need to if you don't do this right the first time around, but it's just a matter of getting used to it. Control K to bring up the align panel, which is going to align these. Oops. Okay, bring them towards the center maybe. That's good enough. All right. Now the other thing is that when you double click on a symbol inside of Flash, you are able to edit in place. So if we double click into this eyebrow, okay, now we are inside of the left eyebrow 0. But inside of the left eyebrow, there's nothing. And really, you need to have about, I think it's 11 or so. There's 18 different eyebrows that you need to draw. So in frame 1, that's your normal eyebrow. And we can do that just once by selecting it and clicking normal. So now this, she's looking at the properties panel, this is set to normal. If we double click outside, we go outside, you notice that this is set to right brow 0, and inside of right brow 0 is the normal eyebrow. Okay, I'm going to break it up just so I can show you another trick. So the number 2 is the shrink eyebrow. Let's see. F7 will create an empty keyframe. I'm just going to do a bunch of them all the way up to frame 18. So frame number 2 is shrink. So maybe, oops, wow. So maybe your eyebrow would look a little something like this. Your characters are so small, it actually makes it very difficult to work with. You need to make these characters a lot larger if you want to have a better experience. Let's see. Okay, well, I still a blob. So shrink. We'll move on to the next one. That would be happy, maybe something like this. It's all up to how your character is. Raise brow, shrink nose. Number 5 is lower brow, shrink nose. Number 6 would be lower brow, shrink nose. Oh, it doesn't matter. Basically, you're going to go through all these and follow the different naming conventions that you have to create the different eyebrows that you need. And right now, I'm just kind of drawing anything just so I can actually have them. Okay, one more. So now we have 18 eyebrows. Now you can go through each one of these and manually click normal, then click on this one and click shrink, then click on this one and click happy, and so on, and configure each one manually as you go along. But what I recommend is just go ahead and do all of them, and before you finalize the configuration, just kind of give it a quick look over, make sure they're all broken apart, and just click this automatic configuration button. When you do this, basically ToonTitan is going to go through every single frame and configure everything at the same time, so you don't have to do everything at once. So now when we look at it, let's see number 5. See, it's been converted into a symbol, and it has been configured to say lower eyebrow. Number 10 is the scare eyebrow. Number 15, inner, raise inner and raise brow, so and so on. So basically, I just configure this entire series of 18 eyebrows by pressing one single button. All right, and now these are all frames that are inside of the left eyebrow sprite. Now if we look over here, notice that there's nothing in here also. So another trick that you can do to save yourself some time, oops, is to duplicate as much as possible. Select and you select the sprite, press Control D, Shift up, Shift left to put it back in the exact place where it was. Edit. Then you go to modify, transform, flip horizontal, and now you just move this in place. So basically this exact symbol is also being duplicated here. So I'm going to remove this configuration though so it can be blank, and I'm going to go back to my main area, and I'm going to click for the left eyebrow. Okay, so now this is set to be my right eyebrow 0, and this is set to be my left eyebrow 0. But notice that when I go inside of this eyebrow, I have all 18 eyebrow positions, and they are all already configured. So I just basically cut my work in half by duplicating that one sprite. This one also has all 18 because it's basically the same exact sprite, which is duplicating it and changing its name. The same thing would apply to the eye. Okay, so we click on the eye, we can see that it's configured as the right eye 0, and this is the left eye 0. So just to save ourselves a little bit of time, I'm going to duplicate that eye, and I'm going to delete that name. And now that it's blank, I'm going to configure it to be my left eye. I'm going to take this pivot point, I'm going to adjust it so it's where I need it to be. And okay, so when I double click inside of any one of these two symbols, which is basically the same one, I just have it, I'm just using two instances of it. Inside of it, I can see that this is not really converted into anything. It's just a basic shape. And in order for this to work, I'm going to need 13 eyes. But I'm only going to focus on one eye right now, okay? You can go back and do all 13 of them whenever you're ready. But in this case, I'm going to show you how to create an eyeball. So the first thing we need to focus on is the pupil area. So we're going to select this, and we're just going to take just this pupil area, and we're going to convert it into a symbol by going into modify, convert to symbol, and giving it a name. It doesn't really matter what name you give it. Now I like using my registration point in the center at all times, unless it needs to rotate around a specific object. Okay, so now I have this pupil here, but it left a hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that color and fill in the blank. And I'm going to copy that, Control C, just so I can have a copy of it. Put this back in place. And I'm going to right click, paste in place, and I'm going to take that and convert it into a symbol, F8. Okay, so this we're going to call it mask. So that's just the white part of the eye, which goes on top of the pupil, and this is referred to as the image, which is the main eye part. So I'm going to convert that into a symbol. So I'm call it image. All right. So Control up, Control down adjusts the placement along the Z axis, or Z depth, I mean. So the image goes in the bottom, the pupil goes in the middle, and the mask goes on top. All right, this is the three main parts that a single eye is going to need. I'm going to copy these, all three of these, and I'm going to press F8 to convert all of these into a single symbol. Okay, I'm just going to call it eye. All right, so I'm going to notice all this, okay, because the eyes are very confusing. I'm going to go outside. This eye is set to be the right eye 0. Here's the left eye 0. So we're going to double click on the right eye 0. Okay, now we are inside of it. And inside here, I should have 13 eyes. Okay, so you're going to take the time to draw the 13 different eyes and convert them into individual symbols. But in this case, I'm doing one at a time. This is going to be my normal eye. Okay, so at this point, this one I can select and go normal. If I have all 13 of them, if I had all 13 of them, I could press the automatic button to do them all at the same time. But in this case, I only have one, so I'm just going to do one at a time. So now this is set to normal 1. So normal 1 is inside of the left eye 0, which is inside of scene 1. No, so there's a bit of nesting going on. Double click on this eye one more time, and now I am inside of the eye that is inside of left eye 0, that is inside of scene 1. So there's, I guess, 3 levels of nesting taking place. At this point, we're going to right click, and this is the easiest way to do it. We're going to distribute to layers. What this is going to do is it's going to take every object and give it its own layer. All right, we don't need that one because it's empty, but we end up with 3 different layers. One is mask, one is pupil, and one is image. And because the order already had them in, and because I already had them in a specific order, that's the order that the layers got created. So if I hide that, I can see what's below it. If I hide that, I can see what's below it. So this is the trick to this part. The image layer, I have to configure it using this button called the eye base, or the image. So I click it. Now it has the name image. For pupil, I select the pupil. I click on pupil. Now it's been configured to be a pupil. And for mask, okay, same thing. I press the eye socket button, the mask button. All right. So now all of these 3 have been configured, and I have to do one more step. The eyes are really, you know, like complicated. I right click on the mask layer and I select mask. Basically what this does is that it makes flash, makes it so that this object is only displayed within the areas of that mask. That mask image itself becomes invisible, and the pupil is only going to be displayed within the areas of that mask. Notice on this duplicate copy over here, when I move the eye, you can see how the eye gets cut off at the edges because it's only being displayed at the portions within the white area. All right, so we're going to put that there. We're going to turn that back on. And we're going to exit by double clicking outside. Okay, we go out 1 level. And in this level is where we need the additional 12 eyes. We go out 1 more level, and now we have that. So here we have our right eye and we have our left eye. If we double click this one, we're going to see exactly the same thing because it is exactly the same image, all right, the same symbol. So any work that you do on any of these is going to automatically take place on this side. So you're cutting your work in half. Same thing with the noses. I don't recommend actually drawing with this pencil tool, the outline stuff, because it's so flaky and it does really weird, odd behaviors. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure I actually have something, actually I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to leave it as is, but I just don't recommend you draw anything just like that because it's so easy for that to disappear. I'm going to take that and go into the nose section, click normal, and now this has been configured to be your normal nose, which is inside of your nose 0. Again, you need to have the full expression range, you're going to need to draw 8 different noses across 8 frames. But for now, I'm only going to use that one. I exit by double clicking outside, and here's the mouth. Again, I don't recommend using just lines for the mouths. Okay, I'm going to go inside of that. Click on the mouth button. There are 30 mouths that you will need to do to have the full range of expressions. In this case, I'm only going to worry about the one mouth. So I'm going to select that one mouth, click normal. So that mouth is set to normal. Double click outside. Notice that this has no configuration yet. So I'm going to go into my model This is the 0 position. I'm going to click on mouth. And because your registration point was way over here, the registration point got placed over there instead of in the center. Ideally, it should be on the center. All right. So there's our mouth. So mouth 0, and inside of mouth 0, there's one mouth called normal. So ideally, inside of the mouth should be 30 mouths across 30 different frames. Let's see here. Neck. Oh yeah, the hands. So the hands is the same thing. See right here you have it set to relaxed, which is not exactly accurate. This should be set to whatever this pivot is, right hand 0 pivot. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so so now the hand itself is set to right hand 0, and if we double click in there, it's completely empty because it's not configured, and you need to have 11 different hand positions to get the full range of hand expressions. But for now, we're only going to worry about the one. So here we're going to press relaxed. So here we have the relaxed position. So be sure to have 10 more hands across the 10 additional frames here. But for now, that's fine because you have the right hand 0, and inside of right hand, you have at the very least a relaxed hand. Okay? So most likely these are completely separate. Let me see here. No, actually you duplicated these the way that I would recommend you do it. So this is good. So yeah, okay. That's good that you duplicated those, that you don't have to do them again. And let's see if you duplicated that hand. Perfect. So we don't have to mess with that. I think that should be it. Let's save it and let's export it. And let's give it a quick test. Let's see here. Crazy talk. Okay, so we'll go. Okay, I should probably put it on this other monitor here so we can see what we're doing. I'm gonna pick an actor. Any actor will do just fine. And we're gonna go to the character composer. Now notice the size of this actor. It's 1, 2, 3 different. I guess you would call these grids or something. Tall. And of course, the size of my grids are different sizes than probably you have because I adjust mine differently. But basically, what I'm pointing out is that check out the size of this character. Once I bring yours in, this thing is definitely gonna get like really tiny. Okay, so there's your SWF file. We're going to open it and import it. You get this little option here. Just press OK. See how it got shrunk down? The character was 3 bricks tall. Now it's less than 1. So let's zoom in on the character. And because it's so small, it's doing really wacky stuff with the outlines and stuff. I never recommend using outlines to draw. It is a very ridiculous way of doing things, and it just doesn't look very professional. And yes, you do get the further, you get the ability to adjust the size of that line, but it's really not worth the benefits or whatever gains you get. So something went wrong with this hand. Your nose and mouth are missing, but most likely that's because of the way they're drawn. It's just one outline, and it's just an outline. There's no actual shape to it, so most likely that's just a consequence of the artwork itself. But you can see the hand here, and this and that. Okay, that's all fine. So now let's take a look at a quick calibration, and we're going to see what happens. And I'm going to explain to you why some of these things kind of go all out of whack. So as these guys walking, what's going on is that the sprites are trying the sprites that are being displayed or that need to be displayed belong to a different angle. Your character at this time is composed of just the front angle. You don't have the 135 angle, 225 angle, all those other angles that you need, so you can expect this type of behavior. If we move to these to the 45-degree angle, see, there's nothing there because you didn't draw it. I mean, once you draw it and configure it, you're going to have something there. Same thing with the 315. All right. So in the meantime, when this character walks, if he moves in a way that it forces a 45-degree angle sprite to be displayed, because you don't have that sprite, naturally it's going to be invisible and it's just going to disappear on you. For testing purposes with a single angle, one of the things that you can do is you can get rid of this calibration panel. And this is just for testing purposes. I don't really recommend doing this for an actual construction. So, or if you only need that one angle, this is one way you can save yourself some trouble. So we're going to turn this into a multi-angle character. Click OK. So now basically what happened is that all of these sprites got copied over into the other angles. So here's the 45-degree angle with the same sprites. That's your side view. And obviously it doesn't look right because it's not really your side view. It's just using sprites from the front view to fill in your side view. And but every angle has sprites now, so at the very least certain actions that require slight replacements should be okay. So let's do a walk now, and you can see your character walking. All right. We're going to do this magic wand tool here to further adjust the layering. Try it again. Okay. And maybe you're going to need to adjust your joint masks later. For example, here. Put one there. Yeah, your character is so small, it's not even taking it, so you're gonna have to make your character a little bit larger to start out with. That's just something that you're gonna have to rework on your own. Let's see here. Let's take a look at the eyes.
Up.
See how the
down,
eyes, because of the way we
left,
set it up,
right, and rolling.
because of the way that we nested the eyeballs and the image base and the mask, this eye is perfectly articular.
Up, down, left, right, and rolling.
So let's do one more pass on this character. Let me see here. I'm not sure what. Right hand 0. Relaxed. See, that's why the configuration is not correct. I'm just going to do a quick cheat. I'm going to copy this name and I'm going to replace this because it's set to relaxed. And naturally, Crazy Talk has no idea what you're talking about when you set it up as relaxed. But we're going to change this manually to left. So now we have left hand 0 with a left hand pivot. There you go. And that should be fine. And inside of that, you should have the relaxed. All right, that's fine. Let's, excuse me. Let's take a look at this nose. Let's go in there one more time. And what I'm going to do for this nose is I'm just going to delete it. And I'm going to redraw it. But I'm going to redraw it using the brush tool instead because I hate outlines, flash outlines. And even though this kind of looks a little bit weirder, it does use a complete shape. So it'll actually work better with Crazy Talk than anything else. I really recommend that you avoid using outlines just like the plague unless you absolutely need them. And if you use them, make sure that you have shapes associated with them. Like your eyebrows are fine because you have the outlines there and then you have a shape filled in. But here, these are just by themselves, so they might as well just not be there at all. Another thing you can do, for example, here is my outline. You can go to Modify, Shape, Convert Lines to Fills, and that converts it into basically a brush fill. Alright, so that basically gives it shape, so it's a lot harder for it to just disappear on you. Let me take a look at the character one more time. I see that this neck has disappeared also. So most likely it's due to your use of outlines. So I'm going to go here, Modify, Shape, Convert Lines to Fills. So now I'm using shapes instead of outlines. So I have pure shapes in here. And this should actually work better. So let's see. Neck 0. In fact, I really hate the way that your hair looks inside of Crazy Talk. See how it got all crazy right there? I'm going to go ahead and just flatten this down. Select everything, Modify, Shape, Convert Lines to Fills, and now I have fills. If you want to be a little bit more artistic about it, you can go here and just kind of adjust this just to give it a little bit of variety in the way that where it's wide and where it's not. It'll give you a little bit more of a professional feel. Because it makes it look like you actually hand painted this using a graphic tablet or something. Yeah, that's good enough. We'll go ahead and export. And we're going to go back into Crazy Talk. Import the SWF. Look for your test-tune03 SWF file. Just import it. Okay, we're going to hide the bones so we can see what's underneath it. That neck is still missing. Something weird with that neck. So we're gonna sort that out in a minute. We're gonna figure out what that is. Okay, well the hand is back. The mouth is there. We're still missing a nose. So we just gotta keep adjusting it until we get it right. Let's see here. Okay, the neck is there, so it's a layering issue at this point. Let's see. Maybe with a mask. It doesn't want to give me a mask. Your character's so small, it doesn't even want it. Okay, well, they're going to be able to fix that because your character's too small. You need to make them a little bit bigger. But I may be able to... No, it requires a mask. So that one is definitely related to your masking issues. Okay, so let's bring back that nose, and you'll notice that when I do this, it's really just about how the damn thing was drawn. It just doesn't like. Okay. Oh well, the configuration is set to normal. We don't want that. So it's not about how it was drawn, I guess. We're gonna take that and we're gonna turn that into a nose. There it is. Now it's a nose. Okay, so it's nose 0, and if we double click, then it has a normal inside of it. Okay, so that's why it's not showing up. So open up your properties panel when you're in doubt and click on stuff and make sure it has the proper naming on there. If it's any of these are all nested objects. Okay, these are your surface objects, and these are objects that are inside of your surface objects. So you don't just click on this and change it to a normal mouth. You have to click on this, change it into your surface mouth, and then inside of it, then you use your, you know, your nested objects, your normal and stuff like that. Okay, so let's export it one more time. And go into Crazy Talk, import it. And once you get the hang of this is actually very easy. Really, it's just a matter of you getting a handle of how the technical stuff works. But Puppet Producer pretty much takes away all the technical stuff, you know, that's related to it. You just gotta keep in mind where everything goes. There's the nose, there's the mouth, there's the eyes.
Up, down, left, right, and some natural movement. Eyes closing and blinking.
And the eyes are not going to close or blink because you don't have those sprites
down,
drawn yet.
Left.
Alright, so there you go. I mean, your character works fine. It's just some configuration stuff. I'm going to give you a couple more tips real quick before I close this video. I'm going to make my character at very least 1,000 pixels tall, so I'm going to make my stage about 2,000 maybe. And with, let's just start with 2,000, and we can adjust it as we need it. You can even go higher. Personally, I use like a really huge canvas. This is a character I'm working on right now. And these characters, I draw them in a way that I can print them out on 11 by 17-inch sheets of paper. That way I can draw directly on them using paper and pencil, and then scan them back in, and they'll be exactly the same size. It saves me a lot of time with coming up with new artwork. So these are actually pretty huge. Let me see. See, 55 inches by 35 inches. So it is pretty huge. And this one is using 550 pixels by 400 pixels. So anyways, when drawing your characters, the placement of the pivot points is very important. So here is my character's shirt. I'm just going to basically do it like that. There's my upper arm. There's my forearm. And there's my hand. Just a quick hand. Boom. Okay, you gotta try to duplicate as much as you can whenever possible. So let's see here. I'm gonna cut this right there. And I'm not being perfect. I'm just being, you know, just kind of nice and quick. So I have this side here. I know this is going to be my upper arm. And ideally you want a more circular, you want these to be able to pivot around more perfectly. So check out some of my other videos so you can see how that's done. So I'm going to turn that into an upper arm, F8. And keep an eye on your registration point. If anything, always keep it in the center. But in certain cases, you want to go inside and just manipulate it yourself so that the pivot point is at the part where you want the rotation to happen. It'll save you so much trouble later on. Let me duplicate this. Control D, Shift up left, modify, transform, Shift flip horizontal, Control X. We're just going to do this. Paste in place. Now I get a more accurate, oops. Symmetry. Alright, so that's a little bit more symmetrical. We're going to convert that into an upper torso. Just going to put it at the bottom. Okay. That way we know that this torso is going to rotate around there somewhere. We know that this arm rotates around that. F8. We go inside and manually adjust these pivot points so that they are located at the spot where we want them to rotate. Okay, it might seem a little bit weird, I don't know, but it's definitely going to help you later on. F8. Okay, the arm will rotate around this section here, the wrist area. So we just want to ensure that the hand is rotating where it needs to be. Alright, so now we just assemble it. See? Just want it to rotate where it needs to be. So now that you have that, you can duplicate that, Control D, Shift up, Shift left, modify, transform, flip horizontal, and just put that registration point right over there. Okay, so now we'll take a look at what happens when you do everything like that from the beginning. Okay, here's the hand. I'm going to click it. Boom. I got a pivot point right where it needs to be. I don't have to worry about anything else. Okay, now these nuts, I can just put them on the outside and they're perfectly fine. But notice the little pivot points got placed exactly where I need them to be, because that's the point of rotation. I was able to test that before I even created my character, before I set up the artwork, before I finalized the artwork. And because I did that, the actual pivot point got placed exactly where it needs to be, and it's going to save a lot of time and energy later on. Here's my torso. When I click on it, boom. My pivot point is right there because that is exactly where I needed to rotate. I don't have to readjust the size of my pivot point. I don't have to adjust the placement of it. It just lands where it needs to land. So that's one thing to keep in mind. All right. So hopefully this video helps out. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out.